once you disappear something, it disappears.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Basic AF, a mostly tech podcast with a couple of mostly good-looking guys.
Mostly. And
that's a
way,
lie.
Tom,
That's a lie.
That's a big lie.
That's why we're not video.
Happy birthday to us.
Indeed.
Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday, dear Tommy. We're a year old today.
We acted.
Or ish.
Yes. Hard to believe, Jeff, that as this show releases, we're right about the 1 year mark. So about a year ago.
Correct.
Very first episode. Man, time flies. Jeez.
Yeah. And we both look worse for wear, so there you go.
Well, that's to be expected. So this is episode 27. Of course, we had a bonus episode in there back in the fall.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, it has gone really quickly. And good opportunity here to say thanks to everybody that has joined us and subscribed, liked, whatever all that good stuff is in those apps, and continue to come and listen to the show. We do very much appreciate that, and for you putting up with some of the antics we have from time to time. But we do appreciate you being here.
Yeah, we're grateful. And just a reminder, tell all your friends about us. You can subscribe at a couple of different places in your favorite podcast app. Obviously, if you're listening to us in that podcast app, you can follow us and do whatever you need to. But you can also find us at basicafshow.com. And you can email us at feedback@basicafshow.com. We are starting to get a little bit of email. So please do that. By the way, just a front-end reminder. Our main show artwork, Randall Martin Design, we highly recommend that you check Randall out. He's killer when it comes to artwork, as you can see. Well, you probably can't see because you don't know what we really look like, but those goofy little robots look just like us. I know. It's embarrassing, and it's maybe a little sad, but it's true. And show music. Psychokinetics, that little bump you hear at the beginning and the end of the show. Psychokinetics, also Celsius 7, one of the front men for Psychokinetics. Highly recommend that you check them out on all your favorite music streaming applications.
Yes, we do. And we do thank them for the artwork, for the music.
Yeah, definitely.
To help us out here. Yeah, good stuff.
I dance every time
You do?
Yeah, we start up. I know, it's not a lie.
Nope.
Good tune.
We don't lie. We may say dumb things, but we don't lie.
I don't want to hear about your
Yeah.
Missed
okay.
it. I don't want to hear about your imperfections, dude.
We got a lot. All right. So if you recall, right around Christmas, we did a show with a few of our favorite things where we talked about some services, apps, hardware things that we liked that didn't necessarily have to be part of 2023, but it's just stuff that we liked. And so kind of following up with that line of thinking, we thought it'd be an interesting show just to kind of talk about where we are individually with the applications we're using, some of our automations and things like that, to see where we are now. And then what we'll do is later on this year, maybe revisit and see if any new things have come out that maybe we've migrated to. That's always a temptation, is the new shiny app. And it can be fun, but man, it can be disruptive.
Or a friction point.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. And so where we are right now, we've got a few categories we're going to go through, and we picked these because they're pretty broad and most people can relate to these. Because I think we all use these in some way. Maybe not the automations, but the rest of them, I think that we do. So why don't we start off, Jeff, with our messaging or communications, we could call it too if we wanted.
Sure. Yep. All those things. For me, messages, obviously, is I hit you up a couple times a day, usually, you and a few other people. So I'm still using Messages app as my standard go-to for that. And that's for all things texting and otherwise. For me, I'm also using Teams on occasion. I have work-related things that require Teams as a communication pathway. I'd prefer not to use it. It's kind of janky, honestly. But I am using that, and I'm a little bit on Threads. I have all but given up Twitter, that thing that the other dude wants to call.
Yeah, I'm not doing
X.
too much on there either at this point.
Yeah, it's lost it. But I've got to say, even on Threads now that everybody's migrated, not everybody, but many people have migrated over from Twitter. Notice I'm still calling it that.
Yeah.
Twitter to Threads, it's starting to get as janky as Twitter was.
I've noticed that too.
In a little addy, a little click this, and I'm not down with it.
Well, and the blowhard political types have come over, and
no, that's me, Tom.
Well, but I know you, so I give it a pass. But I will say one thing that I've noticed with Threads, not to go too deep into that, but the algorithm there, if you make frequent use of the mute button, it'll shape it up again for you pretty quickly. So if you kind of go down a rabbit hole of stuff, you're like, I don't want to see any more of this. You can mute it. Yeah, you can kind of retrain it, and it'll come back, and then it gets a little weird again. I think that I forget what the guy's name is from Instagram that runs all that stuff, but he even did a post the other day that we kind of screwed up the algorithm, and some of the recommendations have been janky lately, and so forth and so on. But I'm like, you guys screwed up Instagram too, so I don't have much faith this is going to stay great for too long. And I mean, it's pretty good now, but anyway.
One of the things I will say about it, I tend to, and this was also true on Twitter, I tend to like to follow creative types. And so because I do that, photographers and writers and people that are doing art and all sorts of things like that, because those are the people that I'm following, when I see cool photographs or things like that, those are the people that I hop on. I am finding that is generally where my feed goes in Threads, as I'm seeing that kind of stuff. I am seeing some other, because I do follow some political people that, that I basically were people that I was following on Twitter that I'm now following on Threads. So it is good in that way, but I don't know if you saw recently, and this was kind of a common thing, but there is this long group of people saying if you press this key long, it goes. I don't even know what it does. But every other post is
turned into that.
Is that, and then the other thing is, there's a moment where it's enjoyable, and then it kind of gets annoying. Is all these hot girls coming on, going following you, and when they're not,
that goes without saying.
Yeah, right. Unfollowed as soon as I saw you, maybe.
Yeah, I mute all that stuff.
Yeah,
it's so aggravating. And then the dear algorithm stuff that kicked in there for a while.
Gosh,
it's like, hey, if you do this post, it'll train your algorithm. I'm like, oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
And if it pops up here and there, I don't mind. But like there for a while, that was big. Like every other thing was that. And so went through and muted those. And it's stupid. You have to mute stuff like that to get it out of there. And then the For You page is harder to get to if you don't know it's there, because they don't make it obvious. So you default to that following. If you swipe, it'll take you over to it. And also if you tap up there at the top, it'll switch to it too. But
yeah, so that part's all right.
But I had some good discussions on there with some techie people. And,
it's
been decent.
We'll see. Yeah, my feeling is by the end of this year, it's going to fall off the rails.
Probably.
That is my feeling.
It is a bad property.
I did. Zuckerberg can't do anything right, which means he's going to mute this podcast. So there you go. He's pushing us down to the bottom. He wasn't listening to us. I know. The other thing that I am using is LinkedIn, although, dude, I don't like that either. It's a little bit of messaging on that. I'm mostly a stalker, I guess. I go through stuff and look at it, but truthfully, my main sources of communication are messages. That's what I'm using.
Yeah, that's big. That's big for me too. That's where most of it happens. Do some on Instagram with some work people. On the Subaru page that I do, kind of casually made some acquaintances there that I'll do that with here and there as they post stuff. And most of the messaging there is some type of a comment to a story post or something,
right?
Or something they've sent over that they thought was funny, whatever.
By the way, your Subi Instagram page is great. It's it's fun to see what people do. I have to say. So that's a shout out to you and recommending a follow here.
Well, thanks, my friend.
On the gram, man.
Yeah, head over there.
Do you have any use do you use WhatsApp for anything?
I don't. I know, outside of the U.S., that thing is huge. I know there's some people at work that use it that have helped out with it. It looks chaotic to me when I see it, but I know tons of people use it, and that's like the default for a lot of people is that, particularly outside of the U.S. So yeah, sure. I haven't used that much. Avoid Facebook Messenger.
Dude.
No. I mean, I go on Facebook to look at different groups and everything, so it's not like I say I don't use Facebook. And it's just that I just don't want another communications channel, so I just don't start any conversations there. Sometimes, I don't know if any of them listen. Friends will send me messages there. I ignore it. So, apologies if that's you, but I do. And then they usually follow up on messages anyway. So
I've got it installed on my phone, and I have a couple of clients that, for whatever reason, actually one of them, I know he's an Egyptian guy that I do work for who has family in Egypt. Yeah. So he'll hit me up there on occasion, and I will immediately bounce it over to message.
Yeah. At work, we use Slack all day.
Oh, gosh. How do you do that? Slack drives me bonkers.
We've been in that since like 2016.
Yeah, good for you.
But we've got some automations and workflows tied into it. So like our ticketing system, if VIP users submit a ticket, it drops a thing in there, and our voicemails go in there, and we've got a bunch of other stuff in there. Yeah.
Voicemails? Oh.
From the help desk phone number, yeah. So we reroute those in. So, and then as the technicians at the help desk process the voicemail, like they just put a little emoji checkbox underneath of it, so we know it's done. So yeah, we use that a lot.
Interesting. I have had to use that, and I'm telling you, that's all thumbs. You know what? All thumbs for me. The other thing that I use, I wasn't thinking about it, but I have a writing group that I'm in from people that I went to grad school with, and we use Discord a ton.
Yep.
And so I have a couple of other Discords that I'm on. I'm on a Discord for the Go game, if you're familiar with Go, which is really good. I like that. But I do use Discord a ton with that little cohort of people that I had in grad school. And it's kind of fun. I mean, we do all sorts of things. Obviously, it's writing related, but there are pet photos in there and stuff like that. But these are friends, and it's a very small, Discord.
Right.
So,
and there are a couple of other apps that, like Craft, that app that we used there for a while. Yeah. They had a Slack channel that was actually pretty good. And I think they still have it, but they've tried to move most of the community stuff over to Circle, which I've got an account. Circle's a community platform, basically, where you pay and you spin up your community there, and you can do groups, different types of groups and everything. Where was I going with that? The newsletter service that I use, they just started a Slack community too. Beehive, they've got one there.
There's so many of these things. It's like
and there is a lot.
Too many, and everybody trying to differentiate themselves a little bit. But Discord, I do like to.
Yeah, Discord
for that one purpose.
And I think it's for live streaming stuff, like Twitch is one. I've never used that. I know it's big with the gaming community and everything.
One of my daughters was on Twitch for a while, streaming games. But
all right, so I think that covers all of our communication stuff, although you could draw a dotted line to this. Email. I just use the mail app at home, use it at work. Yeah, it gets the job done. Is it great? No. Sometimes I jump over to the Gmail interface for work, because that's what we use there. I don't particularly care for it either, but it does. The search is way better, so I use that for when I need to really find something. But I try not to do any more email than I absolutely need to.
Yeah, email definitely. That's a major form of communication for me. So I'm using the mail app too. I do use Outlook on my phone. And actually for a long time, that's all I was using on my phone, was using Outlook instead of the mail app. But a mail for my personal stuff, Outlook on my phone for work stuff, it's okay. It's mail is mail. It's like I also use mailbox mail where I walk down to the end of my driveway and get that too. And it's kind of similar to that. I get a couple of things that I really want in that mailbox down at the end of the driveway, but mostly it's junk, and that's the same thing that mail tends to be too. And I've got really good filtering stuff, but man, I'm telling you, it tends to be everybody thinks that they because they have your email address have the right to send you crapola.
And it's a ton of it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yep. So mail app for both. I think that's a good idea for you to do a little bit of differentiation there to keep Outlook for work and personal stuff in mail.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Right.
Exactly.
So in terms of the next thing that we have on the list here, task management, reminders, projects, that kind of thing. So more, we'll say this productivity nerd stuff, but where are you with that?
So it's interesting. In the last probably 3 months, I have decided to kind of go native, which is to say I'm rolling myself back to most of the native apps in macOS and iOS. I've jumped to Calendar. I've been on Fantastical for probably 3 years. I know you have said for yourself that Fantastical is still super valuable in terms of being able to break it into different groupings and things like that. I was starting not to see the value add. The Calendar app now uses natural language, so you can do the same kinds of things that were really good in Fantastical and not available in the Calendar app. So Reminders has replaced. I was using AnyList for a long time. And I really liked AnyList. It was really good. It had the ability to share those various, mostly grocery shopping, but in fact, not even just mostly, 100% grocery shopping. Now it's pretty easy to use Siri to add items to the grocery list. And so that is what I've moved to. So it didn't make any sense for me to pay for AnyList anymore. So I have not done that. So those kinds of things I'm using, the Calendar app, the Reminders app. I do still occasionally use Sessions when I have a lot of things and I need to kind of get zeroed in. But I know you drop Sessions altogether.
Yeah.
And sessions for me is really just a good way for me to be able to see what I've been working on in the past. But if I don't use it every day, it doesn't give me much benefit in that sense. So, mostly native for me, saving on those subscriptions, which is a plus. And let's take it. How about you?
So like you mentioned there with Sessions, I tried it out. It's a nice app, and I'm not going to say anything negative about it. It just didn't work out for me.
Yeah.
I found that I did like the timer piece, but I could do that with the watch.
What?
Yeah. And I didn't go back and look really at, I would look at the chart that it would give where you could kind of see where your time was split up, but I didn't really look at it. I'm like, what the heck do I care? That time's in the past. I can't do anything about it. And so I just kind of dropped it. But in that, we heard about that in that show we did with Adam Olson on productivity there last summer. And one of the things we also talked about on that show was what I was using for like my task list and things like that. And I think at that point I had moved to Reminders, primarily because it's kind of got that advantage of being so tightly integrated with Siri. So if you use the watch or anything like that to set the, remind me to do something when I get home. But I did use it and it was okay. But I found that the more I put in, it just there's a little bit more friction there than I wanted. In fact, I used another app, Remind Me Faster, to do the input of the reminders into Reminders. Because
What?
Yeah. Because it was too clicky and it was just, I don't like the way that they've got it set up to like put stuff in manually, I'll say.
Yeah. Fair.
And so I had started using that good Lord, that app on the phone. It's actually an iOS, iPad OS app, but it works on Mac too. And so it was just way easier on the phone to get things in if you weren't using Siri to do it with that. But I did go back to Things.
Okay.
It's Things 3 still. They haven't done a Things 4 yet.
They haven't done a thing?
Not a thing on Things 4 yet. And so there's just something, they've done such a nice job of making it, even if it gets loaded up, you can filter it and use tags and all that kind of stuff to, slice it down to just what you want to look at. And it works well with shortcuts, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And so I've been using that. I was using that for personal and work, but we are getting heavy into Asana at work, which is a pretty good Teams project management app. And so to really learn and understand how that application works, I kind of split those off, kind of like you did with Mail, where I'm putting just work stuff in Asana, keeping my personal stuff in Things. And so I'm working on that. And like I said, I still use reminders a little bit because we have a shared groceries list, and I can use the watch to drop stuff in there. And of course, in CarPlay, if I think of something, I just use, and you can use Things with that stuff, but that always seems kind of clumsy to me to go, hey, using Things, remind me to it's like, man, this is weird. And so I just kind of live with it like that.
And that's the same thing. That was the same thing with any list for me. You could do that, but man, it was not fun. The grocery list feature now, the way that Apple's done that in Reminder is brilliant. It works. It works really well, really easy to get those things in.
Using the sorting. Do you use the sorting at all in that?
I haven't even looked at that. I don't really care about the sorting. So it groups everything automatically. Which is great. I'll have to look at sorting. I don't even use it on my phone.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. The grouping, but it does that automatically. So it puts that stuff in there. And the nice thing about it is, I don't walk around the grocery store with my phone out when I'm shopping. I use my watch. I bring that up on my watch and look at it that way, and have been doing that ever since I was using any list. But the big upside is, you run out of peppercorns or whatever it is you're looking in. And I've got a home pot right in the kitchen area. So just say that, and bang, it's on the list. I mean, it's in the moment, and that's one of the things that I really, really like about that. So I don't have to think about it again. It shows up on the list. And the other thing is the grocery feature, the shopping list feature in the Reminders app. Actually, once you disappear something, it disappears. You knock it off, and it clears it from the list, and it doesn't clutter up that list anymore. So it's really simple as far as I'm concerned. That's really what I use Reminders for anyway, except for occasionally, remind me to eat a sandwich or something in the afternoon because I'm disinclined to eat anything until I haven't even had breakfast yet, and it's going to be noon by the time.
I got some pancakes coming up here pretty soon.
Yeah. Oh, good for you. So, can I come over?
Sure.
Okay, cool. What kind of pancakes?
Just buttermilk.
Yeah, dude. All right. No blueberries, no chocolate chips.
Nah, I got a big chunk of butter and some maple syrup.
All right. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Good. I'll be over. So yeah. Anyway, good things, but yeah, those are the typicals. So what about you for writing notes? Any of the office stuff? What are you doing?
So for personal stuff, I have settled nicely, and I'd say pretty comfortably, into the Bear Notes app. That was one of my things for the things we liked in 2023.
Things we liked.
Because they did version 2, which got a little bit cleaner with the markdown stuff, and they added some other things to it that I liked. And so I use that, although I do, again, because of some of the limitations with Bear, like it doesn't have shared notes. There's no web version or anything like that. Although I think they're working on a web thing maybe. But
everybody is.
Yeah. And I do still use notes here and there. Like our show notes for the show, we've got, some shared folder, I guess.
Which works great.
It does. Yeah. Works great for that. I've got, around Christmas time, we had a shared list of gifts and things that we were going to pick up. I don't use it a ton. Like there's still some things with it that I find kind of wonky, but it's a personal thing. And it's, tons of people use it, love it. It's fine. It's a great app, I think. I think it's good.
Yeah. I think, and Apple keeps on improving it.
They do.
Yeah, that's the really good thing. The only thing I find about it, and I use notes all the time, is that it can become overwhelming. The organization, it isn't super hot. So
right. And I use Google Docs at work here and there. Like I don't use it a ton because I just don't do a ton of that kind of stuff. More Sheets. And again, that's because of the collaborative stuff we could do with that.
Sure.
I'd prefer to work in Excel if it's just something that I'm working on myself. And then for personal stuff, I just use Numbers.
Same.
For my simple spreadsheets that I need. Don't use Pages a whole lot. Again, nothing wrong with it. I like it. I just don't really have much of a use for it.
Yeah.
What about you?
So again, in our favorite things episode, I said Highland Pro. That is my go-to. Highland Pro being the writing app that I uses Markdown, but it's straightforward. Text. That's the beauty of it. Transferable to anything. So, when we blow up in the apocalypse, as long as you have the ability to read ASCII, you can see what it is.
Files.
Yeah, you can see what it is.
That's all I got left in my text files.
Yeah, right. That's all that matters, all right. Same with me on Notes app. That's an everyday thing. So I'm not really using anything else. No bears, no, nothing like that. I actually have a physical whiteboard. And I use that on the regular, particularly for larger scale writing projects that I'm working on. That is the tool du jour. It helps me think in ways that writing things in a text app, like Notes doesn't. Although I do that as well. Moments of inspiration in the middle of the night, I'll sometimes pop on my phone. I know that's not the best idea because it wakes you up, but
gotta get it out though.
Yeah, right. I just pop stuff in there, and lately have been able to use Siri to do that. So because I do have a HomePod near the bed, so I just say something to that effect and let it add it, and then I'll adjust it later. So that definitely is is something that I'm using. I do occasionally have to use Google Docs. Some of the people I write for require that as a central tool. So often what I'll do is write it in Highland Pro and then move it to Google Docs because I prefer the interface. Numbers and Pages, not so much Keynote. When I was training, I used Keynote a ton, when I was doing Apple certified training classes. Obviously use that every time I taught. But Numbers and Pages, I do have a tendency to use. I'm stage managing a show right now, and I use Pages for rehearsal reports. A lot of automation, which we're going to talk about automation in a minute, but a lot of automation related to that built in. I've got some things set up, which I'll talk about when we hop over there in a couple of seconds. The other thing that I'm using is Numbers for rehearsal calls. So I have call sheets. Eventually, coming up in a couple of weeks, all the actors will need to be off book. And so what I do is I have essentially line notes, when people call for lines or when, they mix up the way that the lines are in the script. What I've done is created a little spreadsheet, and I print that out basically, and I do the same thing for rehearsal reports. I print it out so I have a pad. I create my own little notepads, full size, 8.5 by 11 sheets that I've basically glued together like you would, one of those old school notepads where you tear stuff off. It's great. Works really well. And so my assistant stage manager will, when people call for lines, will write those down, what page it was, what actor it was, what, where it was in the line and what it is that they've done wrong. And then after every single one of those rehearsals, I type those notes in about their lines into the spreadsheet, into that particular tab in Numbers, and then I can arrange and group them by the actor. So I can use the sort features to say, this actor, this page, and then I email that out to the entire cast so they can go through, find themselves, on the page. It works really brilliantly. This is something I've done over probably the last 3 or 4 years. And I know this is way more information than anybody needs about what I'm doing with numbers. But it's a great tool. I use it all the time for that kind of stuff. So
yeah, that's cool. Yeah. That's good use case.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it. Now, our next section is automations. Do you have any automations around that specific?
Yeah, I do. So these, these all get emailed out to various groups. So what I've done, as you know, I use Keyboard Maestro for a lot of stuff. These are, I know you think the interface on that's a little funky, and I'm not going to argue with you. It's not as clean looking as Shortcuts is. But what I've done is I've created a bunch of automations there that, kick off the various emails, that keep account of the rehearsals, and say for, in the case of the rehearsal report that I was talking about, that's a Pages document. It's got a table in that Pages document, and I copy that information, and it will spit that information into a searchable format rather than putting a PDF in the email. It'll spit it into the email that goes to all of the production staff. I'm speaking some other language than English presently, and then addresses that, and then sends it out with the rehearsal report number in it. So that's really manually filling in the information, other than a couple of things that are automated, like nothing to report for a particular, like the scenic crew or the lighting crew or something like that. Nice. And then it kicks that into the email. So yeah, I use Keyboard Maestro every day for a variety of things. That's my regular, occasionally a little bit of Shortcuts app, but very limited when it comes to that.
Yeah, and that's something I don't use a ton. I have come up with a couple of things that I'll do with it. And I did go back to the Freeform app over the holiday break.
Yeah, Freeform. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. See, you even had to think about it. You're like, what?
Yeah, I did. It's usually I do use it to like handwrite stuff. How do you use that with automation?
Well, not with automation per se. But what I did is I thought, so I was working on a process for the Subaru thing that I do, and I've got a newsletter I do with that, and there's part of that that's a feature of a subscriber, right? So it's like a user feature. And so I've got to coordinate that with them, where I send them some information. I need to know when they need to have their information back, when it's going to publish, what the edition number is, all that kind of stuff, which has been a manual process. And so I took the Freeform app because of its kind of infinite canvas there, and just went crazy with brainstorming and workflows and sketching out stuff, and I actually came up with a process that seems to mostly work. And then I went from that, and along the same lines, though, is so I need content for that. We need content for this show, content for the newsletter and everything. Mm-hmm. So I made like a content farm collector of sorts.
Interesting.
So it's tied to the share cheat. So if I'm looking at something during the week that I see looks relative, looks like it'd be relative to something for this or the Subaru thing, I hit the share button. And there are some text prompts that I've built into that. It says, like the first one says, "Why does this matter?" And it lets me put what I'm thinking about it in at the time. And then what's it for? Like, is it for a newsletter, podcast, website, social post? And I can choose all four if I want. And then finally, it's like, is it for the Apple stuff or the Subaru stuff? And then the final step is it adds it to a number sheet in the correct tab. It links back out to that source. And then what I can do, and it sets the default status of it as idea. And then later on in the week, I can go back and see all the stuff I've collected, start scheduling posts out and all that kind of thing.
All right. Very cool.
So nerdy, nobody cares. But
yeah, well,
maybe it'll spur an idea. Maybe you've got some process that is annoying. And it wasn't very hard. Like, and I'll be honest, for that one, I used ChatGPT.
What?
I did. Because
not you, Tom.
I knew what I wanted to do. And I was like, okay, well, let's see if it knows. I didn't know if it would or not. But it's like, oh, yes, use this. And I didn't quite use it exactly the way it says, but it got me started.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's the automations piece. Again, I don't use Shortcuts for much more than those couple of things.
Yep.
I think it's better for little short bits of things that you just want to do on some type of repetitive basis. Maybe you want it to create a daily note in your writing app so you can log what you've done for the day or something. But
yeah.
All right. Anything else?
No. We burned another 30 plus minutes for everybody.
It goes fast.
Yeah, it does. Hopefully it goes fast for those of you listening. As a reminder, if you've stuck around this long, if your walk or your workout at the gym has gone this far, as we said at the beginning, like, follow, tell your friends about us. We'd really appreciate that. You can find us at basicafshow.com. There's always a way for you to tell other people about it. So we'd love it if you did that. Anything else, Tom?
No, I don't believe it is. I think that is everything for this one. So we thank you for being here. Have a great day, great night, and we'll talk to you next time.
See ya.